We're official now. Yeah. Welcome, everybody, to meeting number 104 of the Standing Committee on Industry, Science, and Technology. Today, pursuant to Standing Order 81-4, we will be reviewing the main estimates related to the Department of Industry. Today, we have with us the Honourable Christy Duncan, Minister of Science and Minister of Sport and Persons with Disabilities, along with John Nubley, Deputy Minister, and David McGovern, Associate Deputy Minister. We're going to get right into it so we don't lose time. Minister, you have up to 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, esteemed committee members, thank you for the opportunity to be here on the occasion of the tabling of the main estimates for the 2018-19 fiscal year. Notre gouvernement croit.
Our government believes that the best investments we can make are in our people.
Means investing in curiosity, creativity, and innovation. That's why, as you are no doubt aware, our government recently made the biggest investment in research in Canadian history. Nous avons fait ces investissements parce
We made these investments because research is the engine that drives an innovative economy.
Sets aside nearly $4 billion to support current and future scientists and researchers. In addition to the new funding, $2.8 billion will go toward renewing federal laboratories to ensure federal scientists have the infrastructure they need to inform evidence-based decisions about our environment, our health, our communities, and our economy. Le budget de 2018.
Budget 2018 represents the culmination of so much work done with so many partners and stakeholders. We believe these investments will encourage current researchers and inspire the next generation.
To position Canada at the leading edge of discovery. Discovery that improves not only the health and quality of life of Canadians, but also our environment. And we want to supercharge the economy with research, enabling the discoveries that create jobs and even entirely new industries. Take artificial intelligence, for example. Budget 2017 committed $125 million for the Pan-Canadian AI strategy. This investment is supporting hubs across the country. Industry is taking notice. Alphabet Inc., the parent company of Google, is setting up shop in Toronto. And now The Economist is talking about Maple Valley, not just Silicon Valley. People around the globe are asking, how did Canada do this? Nous voulons aussi améliorer la.
We also want to improve the lives of Canadians with new breakthroughs in areas like healthcare.
Will help lead to new treatments, new medicines, and better care every day for Canadians across the country. And we want to build a dynamic 21st century workforce, one that is equipped with the science, technology, engineering, and math, I'd add in arts and design skills, needed to respond to future challenges and opportunities with creativity, courage, and confidence. So let me share some details. Of that $4 billion investment I mentioned, $1.7 billion is going to support research funded through the granting councils. This includes the single largest investment in discovery research in Canada's history. This will mean better opportunities and increased support for about 21,000 researchers, students, and highly qualified personnel across Canada. And that includes $210 million in new funding for our Canada Research Chairs program. Already, through the Canada 150 Research Chairs, we have recruited 25 internationally renowned shareholders, who are making their way to Canadian universities in the coming year from Austria, Australia, France, the United States, New Zealand, South Africa, and the United Kingdom. I'm happy to say 42% of them are Canadians returning home because they now see a future in research here in Canada. And let me add, 58% of them are women. They are leaders in their fields, attracted to Canada by the supportive funding and the advantages that our research ecosystem offers. Budget 2018 also sets aside over $1.3 billion to provide researchers across the country with access to state-of-the-art tools and facilities. This means over 44,000 students, postdoctoral fellows, and researchers will have access to the equipment they need to carry out groundbreaking research. I'd also like to highlight an important investment that Budget 2018 makes in our world-class colleges and polytechnics. They are a critical innovation bridge between ideas and the marketplace. Through the College and Community Innovation Program, we have set aside $140 million to increase support for collaborative innovation projects involving businesses, colleges, and polytechnics. This is the largest research investment ever. Ces établissements sont importants pour
These institutions are critical to innovation. They partner with small businesses in their communities to solve real-world challenges.
Story that illustrates this. I recently visited the Technology Access Center at Niagara College. While there, I chatted with a representative of General Electric. He was happy to share that one of the main reasons the company decided to open a manufacturing facility in Welland was because of the Technology Access Center in the college. GE saw firsthand how the capabilities of the college could benefit the company. Everything it needed was there in Welland: access to faculty and research teams, resources and equipment, and highly skilled and knowledgeable graduates in technology, trades, and business. This is huge. Today, the GE Brilliant Factory employs approximately 200 people. So we are making investments that strike the appropriate balance between discovery research that support breakthroughs and the commercialization of ideas. Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Chair, I'm glad to say that Budget 2018 was well received by those on whom it will have the greatest impact.
This budget makes important advances on the roadmap developed by the Naylor Report. It's a major investment in research that impacts Canadians' everyday lives, from shortening commute times to life-saving medical treatments and environmental protection. The CCAN president and CEO said, "Supporting applied research is one of the most efficient ways to boost Canadian innovation." This investment will go a long way to unleash the potential of colleges and institutes to drive growth in their communities and train the innovators of the future. To that end, I want to emphasize that Budget 2018 is about renewing Canada's research ecosystem to train the next generation of researchers. In recognition of this historic opportunity for real change, we want to ensure Canada's next generation of researchers, including students, trainees, early career researchers, is larger, more diverse, and better supported than ever before. We task the granting councils with developing new plans to achieve greater equity and diversity in the sciences and to support more early career researchers. We want to see our support advance the research ambitions of more women, Indigenous peoples, minorities, persons with disabilities, and and those at early stages in their careers. What's more, over the next year, the government will do further work to determine how to better support our next generation of researchers through scholarships and fellowships. Mr. Chair, the government is playing the long game here. Nous avons la chance de prendre en main le pouvoir.
This is our chance to harness the power of research to change the lives of Canadians for the better.
Capable of sustaining brilliant minds and groundbreaking work. We do all this because we want to be a global research leader and be at the forefront of discoveries that positively impact the lives of Canadians, the environment, our communities, and our economy. And so we are doing our part to train and support this generation of Canadian researchers so that they can help make that happen. Thank you. I'd be pleased to answer any questions the committee members have. Merci.
Thank you very much, Minister. We're going to move right into questioning with Ms. Ng. You have 7 minutes.
Minister, thank you so very much for coming here today and to talk to us about the great work that you are doing, leading the ministry, leading the department. I'm going to ask a question about our investment, the government's investment in fundamental research. You had talked about our government making the largest investment in discovery research through the granting councils in Canadian history, and to me, this is really great news for Canadians. It's really great news for for the people in my riding. We've got great institutions like York University and Seneca College. So I wonder whether or not you could talk to us about the college sector. You touched on that, and maybe you can talk to us about the investments that you're making that will help in applied research, in innovative research at the colleges and the polytechniques and the CEGEPs.
Thanks, Mary, for the question. I will begin by saying this is the largest research investment in Canadian history. It is a $4 billion investment, and on top of that, it's $2.8 billion for government science infrastructure. So our government scientists have the best labs possible to do their research. It is a $1.7 billion investment in discovery research. $1.3 billion to the Canada Foundation for Innovation. And for the first time, after 20 years, the CFI will have sustainable funding. And we are making the largest investment in college research in Canadian history as well. And it's so important. When you go to visit the colleges, and I know you have in your riding, the work they're able to do, for example, with business. Small business or a medium-sized business comes in, they have a challenge, they're able to work on state-of-the-art infrastructure, they're able to work with students, they're able to work with faculty, they get an answer they need that, in with a matter of months, that will help grow their business and create jobs. So I'm really excited about the investments in both fundamental research, but also discovery research. And the colleges play an enormously important role in our research ecosystem.
Can you talk to us about the benefits then to to those students in in the college system, because the work that the investments that the government is making to enable them to do the kind of research. So whether and in many of the colleges it'll be applied research, and its relevance to industries and to relevance to industries because of that very collaboration. So what are we doing there around supporting those students that also enable the partnerships and the learning that will take place with industries?
Mary, thanks for the great question. I too have a college in our community. It's Humber College, and I get there as often as I can. We want our students doing that applied research because that makes them very attractive to business, to industry, to community. When they finish their degree, they are getting real-world experience. They're working on real-world problems that makes them very attractive to industry. So it gives them the opportunity to work with faculty. Research funding will give them opportunity to work with faculty, to work on the best infrastructure, and it gives them the funding to do their research.
And then now on the other side, so for those very organizations who collaborate so often and so well, can you talk about how the investments will actually help the industries who are, who I think have an opportunity here to collaborate more with, with the community, with the colleges, with the post-secondary institutions in their respective areas? You use GE as an example, but maybe you could talk about other industries that have benefited from the very investments that we're making for students.
Thanks, Mary, for the question. I think today is a really good example of that. We have the NSERC award winners here on Parliament Hill, and the Prime Minister met with them this morning to do a roundtable, and there was a college researcher who has worked with industry for 10 years, and his research is around removing chemicals from cleaning products. So it's a really exciting day on Parliament Hill to be able to celebrate these researchers. And I will also highlight the investment we've made in the National Research Council. It is $540 million. It is the largest investment in the National Research Council in 15 years. And this is about allowing the Research Council to go back and do some discovery research, but also on the innovation, help small businesses and medium-sized businesses, help them with the problems and challenges they face.
When I think about, when I think about these wonderful researchers in the colleges and in the post-secondary institutions, there are a number of there's a number of supports that we're making to support women in the research field. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Thanks, Mary. As a former researcher myself, I spent 25 years fighting for more diversity in the research system. Our government understands that equity, equality, equity and diversity go hand in hand with excellence. We want more women, Indigenous people, people from minority backgrounds, and persons with disabilities in the research system. That's why I brought back the University and College Academic Staff Survey. It was canceled by the previous government after being in existence since 1937. That gives us the data. Are women and men progressing through the ranks at the same rate? Are they making equal pay? We've put in place new equity and diversity requirements for our Canada Excellence Research Chairs and our Canada Research Chairs. On the Excellence Research Chairs, it is $10 million over 7 years. I'll just finish this one sentence. And we have the first rollout of it under the previous government, not one woman nominated. Under the second rollout, one woman nominated. Today, we have 27 Canada Excellence Research Chairs whom we're enormously proud of. One is winning an award today, but only one is held by a woman.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We're going to move Mr. Généreux. You have 7 minutes.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister, for being here today. I do only have 7 minutes, so if keep answers short would be appreciated. But also, if I interrupt you, it's not in any intent to cut you off. It's just that we only have 7 minutes here. With that being said, you mentioned in your comments that you said your investments would ensure that government scientists have the best labs possible. But Minister, where are the scientists? In your last appearance before this committee, you were asked about CanSim Table 358-0146, which shows a loss of 1,571 federal personnel engaged in science and technology when the government changed over. You told this committee it was part of retirements, with no further elaboration. Do you still stand by that explanation?
Thank you, Matt, for the question. One of the challenges we face is that different departments look at the numbers in a different way, and it has to do with way researchers are categorized. That's why I am having a full-day retreat with with the deputy ministers of the science-based departments in June. One of the areas I've put on the table for discussion is around human resources. I want to make sure that if the average age of a civil servant is 38, what is the average age of a government scientist? How are we attracting new PhDs, postdocs into government science? How are we supporting them through their career? This is an incredibly important area for me, and I was proud that with my colleague from Department of Fisheries and Oceans, one of the first things we did was hire 135 scientists. I can't be clearer. We are committed.
Minister, I'm sorry, I'll cut you off only because I think you got your point across. The table says otherwise, though. I'm especially concerned with another row in the same chart, and I have the chart here, happy to share it with you. Those engaged in research and development, so direct scientists, which reads to me as being federal frontline researchers. In that category, there's a drop of another 2,602 personnel in research and development when the government changed over. So the 2018 numbers show that there are currently 3,507 fewer scientists employed by this government than there was in the previous government. It's difficult to believe that this is solely because of retirements, and I'm happy you're having the retreat, but this is 2.5 years in the making, and you now have 3,500 fewer scientists. Why?
That's not the case. In fact, we have gone back to the science-based departments, and what we have been told, it has to do with classification of researchers. And
For 2.5 years, Minister? These classifications still are incorrect?
It really should be. I'll give you an example. As a result of the previous administration and the restructuring of Atomic Energy of Canada Limited, which was completed in September 2015, it means that the scientific and professional personnel at the Canadian Nuclear Laboratories at Chalk River are no longer employed by AECL. But by the Canadian National Energy Alliance. It's a private sector company, and that shift is responsible for 2,873 full-time equivalents. That decision was taken by the previous government.
It was enacted by your government, Minister. But when you have
No,
3,507, you have 2,800 and 3,507. There's still missing scientists there.
Decision was taken.
Where are the
by
missing
previous
scientists,
government.
Minister?
Matt, our government is committed to science, research, and evidence-based decision-making. We are committed to supporting our government scientists. We are committed to unmuzzling them. On day 2 of our government, we unmuzzled our scientists. We have backed that up with a new communications policy. And myself and Minister Bryson wrote to all the ministers and the department heads to make sure they were aware of that policy change. We know culture change takes time, and we know there's been a new study that's been done showing that the improvements, scientists have gone from 90% thinking they were muzzled. That number is down 50%. There is still work to do. No, I'll just finish my sentence. And myself, Minister Bryson, and the president of PIPSIC have written a joint letter to our researchers directly to reinforce we want them out speaking, both to the media and to the public. That is a very large change from the previous government.
The fact that, and there's actually 63% say they're unsatisfied. So it's the fact that you're still quoting these numbers where it was 2.5 years into your mandate. Anyways, Minister, we'll change the channel a little bit here. Want to talk about the Chief Science Advisor position. Part of the Chief Science Advisor's mandate is to provide, coordinate expert advice to the Minister of Science and members of Cabinet on key scientific issues. That's directly from her mandate letter. Your government has recently pushed through a new environmental assessment process and continues down the path of imposing a carbon tax, insisting that these are evidence-based decisions. How many times has the Chief Science Advisor been asked to weigh in on these or any other matters since her tenure began 7 months ago?
Thank you for the question. As you know, Matt, I was delighted to undertake the first consultation with the research community in a decade, also with Parliament and with Canadians, to get a Chief Science Advisor. that position was abolished by the previous government. And we asked what this position should look like, and it was an advisory role. We could not have a better chief science advisor, Dr. Mona Niemer.
Talking about the advisor
I'm gonna
position.
answer you, and I know, for example, the member of both said she was an excellent candidate, and so she reports directly to the Prime Minister and to myself. She can also be tasked by the Prime Minister, myself, or by Cabinet. And it is in an advisory role. We have brought forth a new environmental assessment process after environmental legislation, I'm sorry to say, was gutted by the previous
Ms. Minister, I don't have much
government.
time. How many times has she been consulted?
On the new environmental assessment process, we've put in place that after the legislation is passed, there will be a review, and of course, our chief science advisor will be weighing in on that.
So she'll be
Thank you.
weighing in after
Sorry.
the process.
Sorry, Mr. General, we're a little over time, but we'll get back to you. Mr. Massey, you have 7 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Madam Minister, for being here. You mentioned in your presentation here the GE Brilliant Factory on that. What type of commitment have they made in terms of investment with that?
I would have to get you the details of that. I can tell you on my side what I know, and going to meet them. They were really excited because of the opportunities that the college offered in terms of faculty, state-of-the-art infrastructure, the access to students who could work to solve their real-world problem. And that's why we've made the investment of $140 million, and that is the largest applied research investment in Canadian history.
Are you aware that they're laying off 350 workers in Peterborough?
I cannot comment on that.
I guess that's, and this leads to my further question, is it seems to be, this is the frustration I think that a lot of people face with regards to involvement with the private sector, is that on one hand it's used, and I'm just wondering whether there's an investment in the public with regards to this facility that you referenced, the GE Brilliant Factory, and the mere fact is that down the road in Peterborough, they're actively laying off 360 people and closing a factory, and so it becomes a little bit difficult. And my next question really relates towards what I'm hoping to see over the next year. Some, I guess, accountability is you're talking about $2.8 billion in your references here of federal laboratories and renewing federal laboratories. What specifics can you provide right now in terms of where that's going and how are we going to ensure that it's going to be Canadian content for those investments? And that's what I really want to know in terms of especially what types of structures are being put in place so that when we have this type of investment, it's not going to be absent of Canadian jobs and Canadian participation.
We're really excited, Brian, about this investment in federal labs, and we are just at the initial stages. We've worked, I talked about this daily retreat we have, and I brought that in. That had never been done before in government, where we bring together the science-based departments. And one of the things we've looked at when we look at the age of some of the infrastructure and how research was done in these labs, where it would be a single-use lab, we want to make sure that we bring together environment and health, so you have that multidisciplinary perspective. And one of the things that's come from that that yearly retreat is to come up with a new science infrastructure strategy. So it was important in this budget to get the money for the work that's being done.
And I appreciate that. I guess my concern and what I'm looking for specifics on, and if you don't have them now, perhaps whether or not it's even being done, is a lens on procurement for that, and also the use of small, medium-sized businesses to participate in that procurement. So I imagine that this is going across the country with regards to the nearly $3 billion, and I'm looking for measurement processes in terms of that. That's what I really would like to.
Brian, can I respond to
Of
that?
course, yeah.
And I appreciate your questions. This really is the line of questioning is for PSPC. We are at the beginning process on the science side, but I do want to stress how important accountability is. In Budget 2016, we announced $2 billion for research and innovation infrastructure across the country, and there was a 2-year window, and I want you to know how carefully we watch, and so there is that accountability mechanism.
Well, I've had a chance to sit on other committees, and one of procurement is a mess right now. There's no doubt about it. And I guess I'll move on to another question. But the reason I use the General Electric example is because and if we just leave it to another department or another minister, there's no guarantee there's an actual business plan for the money to be used for procurement for the advancement of small, medium-sized, and other businesses in Canada. So I just leave that out there in terms of, I would hope that as a minister, there would be an interest to make sure that the procurement really is reflective of Canadian.
Can I respond to that, Brian? Our departments are working very closely, as are all the science-based departments. And we have the chief science advisor also feeding in to make sure that we get the right infrastructure. But understand, this is bringing all these departments together. That's really new.
Okay, thank you. Can I move on then as well to the Pan-Canadian Artificial Intelligence Strategy? I did get a briefing with regards to the superclusters, and one of the concerns I had was the lack of, at least at this point in time, the detail, but whether or not there's going to be communication and sharing with artificial intelligence investment to manufacturing and the other clusters themselves. So I'm wondering whether or not these investments in terms of AI across Canada, whether there's going to be a connection to them or whether they're going to be individual one-offs. So I'm looking for a little more detail as to how that.
Okay, I'll respond. You asked first of all on the Pan-Canadian Artificial Intelligence Strategy. That was announced in Budget 2017. It was $125 million to invest in artificial intelligence research. And I'd like people around the table to know that Canada is really a world leader in this area. Government began funding AI in Canada in 1980s. No one was really sure what that was. And even in the late 90s, again, not sure, but Canada kept investing in it. And so you see our researchers are now, when sort of AI is at the tipping point, when it will affect how we work, live, and play, Canada's really at the forefront because of the investments in discovery research and because of the training of our researchers. So the $125 million was for corridor for Montreal, then Toronto to Waterloo, and Edmonton. You're now asking about the superclusters, and I think you'll be better asked. You're better to.
Well, the 125, yeah, no, there's connect, but. Is the 125, are they individual one-off investments, or are they going to be succinctly connected in some capacity for the overall funding? Because you're calling it a strategy, so I'm just trying to understand that part of it.
Very, very quickly.
So the short answer is that CFAR is playing a role in administering the $125 million. As part of that, Alan Bernstein is very much encouraging coordination across the three centers. And I could, and again, with respect to the superclusters, each of the three areas have investments related, proposed investments to 3 of the 5 superclusters.
Thank you. We're going to move on to Mr. Bailiff. You have 7 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Minister Duncan, for being here. I know since I've got to know you over the last 2 years, you have been a tireless advocate for research. You've been ringing that bell about the investments we need to make. And as we're talking about the mains, I'd like to delve into a bit of the investments that you see coming. Specifically, let's talk about, first of all, infrastructure. You can't have leading research if you're using old stuff. It just can't work. So before we even talk about hiring more scientists doing anything, if they're not working on the latest, they can't be advanced. So can you talk to me specifically about the $2.8 billion that's in the estimates just for the infrastructure? How do you see that impacting Canadian research in general?
Okay, so there are 2, thank you, Frank, there are 2 large investments in research infrastructure. One is for the the university's polytechnics. That's the $1.3 billion through the Canada Foundation for Innovation. And the first time after 20 years, this will now be sustainable funding. It's not going to be researchers wondering when the next bit of money is coming. Do I apply for a grant now? Do I wait? They've never been able to plan. Now they will be able to do that. That's really exciting for the research community. And what we're also hoping, we also track where the infrastructure is across the country. So universities, colleges, polytechnics can use it, business can come and use it, government. And then on the government science side, as I said, we've been working with the science-based departments to develop for the first time a government science infrastructure strategy. That is an investment of $2.8 billion. Many of our labs are 25 years old. It is time that they be updated, and it will be exciting. So instead of one lab for one type of research, we want to bring together multiple experts so we can solve big challenges.
I liked one of the things, obviously being in the industry committee, that you mentioned, that great infrastructure is not just going to be limited to the use of the federal scientists. You also mentioned businesses. Can you elaborate a bit about how that's going to help our businesses?
I've had several long discussions with the Canada Foundation for Innovation on this. And they actually now, you can go on their website, and they track where infrastructure is around the country. They're really excited about this new investment because it'll give our researchers a greater opportunity to get state-of-the-art equipment. And they are also looking, are excited about what that means for how business might be able to use and how there might be sharing.
Great value in that. And I've heard the same thing, Minister, that if we build these amazing new infrastructures and we allow our businesses to then cooperate as well with our scientists, it's not only going to help our businesses, it's going to help that interlink that we've been studying about. So I'm very happy to see that our government's doing that.
And I'll just add in, Frank, that thank you, that the National Research Council also plays a role here. So I think I mentioned earlier, it's a $540 million investment.
I wanted to ask you exactly about that. En effet, je vais vous le demander cette question, ministre.
In fact, I will ask you that question, Minister. It's an excellent question, not only for all of Canada, but for Quebec as well, which uses many resources for research, including the National Research Council. I know several businesses who use that resource, and it's an extremely important, big and large investment, $540 million.
Again.
That's a great question, Frank. Really pleased about this investment, the $540 million, as you said. It's the largest investment in the National Research Council in 15 years. It has been described as the jewel in government research, and it plays such an important role. It does discovery research, but it also does on the innovation side. It works with small businesses and medium-sized businesses, and it brings together academics and business, government, to help businesses address challenges, to grow their business, hopefully to hire more people. And the way our new president, Ian Stewart, is looking at this, he also wants to build collaborations between the NRC, stronger collaborations with academia and with industry. In many areas, you may have a NRC facility on an academic campus, but it may be a few researchers going back and forth.
That link again, which
he
we
wants
want
to really strengthen that important link.
I would agree with you. We've heard that often, that the businesses have to be linked more with our researchers, because that way we can transfer the technology. So I encourage that as well. I only have a minute left, but I will throw back something was brought up by my colleague there that you didn't get a chance to fully answer, about how sometimes full-time equivalents are reassigned, and it may look the numbers. So we have an old saying, there's lies, or how do you say, statistics, darn statistics, I'll say, and then what is it? lies, darn lies, and statistics. That's what I was looking for. I'll let you address those statistical anomalies, if you will.
Thank you.
I had to get that out the right way.
As a researcher, we love statistics, but it's really to bring forth that under the previous government, that ACL was to be shut down, and we've lost. These researchers have gone to another organization. That's one of the main reasons, but then the other reason is regarding the classification. But I'm very focused on making sure that our government scientists have the funding they need to succeed, that they have the labs and tools they need. So that's one of the reasons we're bringing together the science-based departments in June to talk about the needs of our government scientists.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much. And we are going to move to Mr. Jeanneret. You have 4 minutes, sir.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's a lot to unpack in that last answer, Minister, but we'll leave that be. We'll go back to, you said something what I think most Canadians will find shocking at this committee just a few moments ago. You said that a chief science advisor who's been in place now for 7 months would play no part in looking at the environmental assessment process of the carbon tax. I think that alone is shocking, but it's also very disappointing. The fact that you wouldn't look to the chief science advisor for her advice on a very scientific and evidence-based policy. Why not, Minister?
I'm just going to come back to the previous question you've asked, Matt. The number of federal personnel engaged in science and technology has actually increased.
Minister, we can argue.
Government was elected, if we look at from 2015 to 16, and from 33,925 full-time equivalents to 34,484 full-time equivalents, and that's with the changes in ACL.
Minister, right here from your table, the members involved in total science and technology, and then under research and development, it has gone increasingly in a downward trend since your government has taken over. I encourage you, Minister, to look at that CanSim table, please. But again, back to the Chief Science Advisor. I find it shocking that the Chief Science Advisor was not part of the decision-making process. Why not?
I want to finish this. The shift of 2,873 full-time equivalents is explained by the restructuring that your previous government did around Atomic Energy of Canada Limited, and the scientists are no longer employed by AECL, but by the Canadian National Energy Alliance, which is a private sector company.
Minister, why was the Chief Science Advisor not consulted on the environmental assessment process?
As you know, the Chief Science Advisor, we've put her in place to make sure that government science is made fully available to Canadians, that government scientists speak freely about their work, and that scientific analyses inform decision-making. She will regularly review the methods and integrity of the science used in impact assessments and decision-making, and there will be an annual report at the end of her year to the Prime Minister and myself, and that will be made public. I'd like to tell you, she did put out a letter after her first 100 days saying the work she's been doing. She hit the ground running. She's crisscrossed the country listening to the research community because it's about rebuilding trust.
Minister, it's up to you, though, to ensure that she's consulting on legislation that's so imperative to your government's success, and the fact that you haven't consulted her on it, and then you just said earlier that you would consult her after the fact.
Well, let me be clear. She did feed into the process for the new environmental assessment process, which is
You just said she didn't. You said she's doing it after the fact.
There would be a review as well, but she did feed into the process of this new environmental assessment process that was brought in because, with respect, Matt, under
the
the
redacted
previous
documents.
government, environmental legislation was gutted, fish protection was gutted.
Chief Science
and our
Advisor privy
waterways.
to
And
the
so
information, the
this
heavily
new
redacted documents.
environmental assessment process is focused on our environment and waterways, about rebuilding trust with Canadians, advancing reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, and to ensure good projects go ahead.
Sorry, we do have to move on. Mr. Johari, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I welcome you. And let's change the topic to digital world and digital economy. As you know, we are fast moving in a very ever-changing landscape within our world, and it's digital is playing a huge role. As it relates to the $4 billion, and it relates to our youth, and especially our let's say, women within the youth. What's the government doing, and what's your department is doing about, your ministry is doing about the digital skill set among our youth, and specifically considering diversity and something that you are also a great supporter. How is it translating into making sure that we are fully diverse as within the digital skill sets?
Thanks, Majid. And I know as a former engineer, you're just an engineer, you're very interested in this area. So we have a
Just to clarify, former engineer. just to clarify, a former engineer. Thank you.
We've made a $50 million investment to teach young people to code. That's a really exciting program to encourage more young people to consider a career in science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM fields. We have the hashtag Choose Science campaign, which has delivered thousands of posters to thousands of schools across the country. And it's a digital campaign, and just receiving wonderful attention. I'll build on what Mary asked earlier. What we have done to increase equity and diversity in the universities. I've talked about bringing back the UCAS system. I talked about our Canada Excellence Research Chairs. And I've put in place new equity and diversity requirements for our Canada Research Chairs. And we've had the universities put in place by this past December equity and diversity plans of how they plan to achieve the voluntary targets they agreed to in 2006 for women, Indigenous people, people of minority backgrounds, and persons with disabilities. And I've been clear, if they don't make their targets, I will consider withholding peer review. And I'd like to tell you that we're having real success with this. With our Canada 150 chairs, first of all, we were able to attract 42% expat Canadians back to Canada because they saw the research future here, but 58% women. And that is a real difference. That is a real achievement, and it's measurable.
Thank you very much. We're going to move back to Mr. General. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Minister, while in opposition, you were a vocal advocate of CCSVI treatment, a controversial treatment whose founder, Dr. Zambodi, claims improves the lives of patients with MS by widening their veins to allow for better blood circulation to the brain. You presented Bill C-280 in support of National CCSVI strategy and claimed to have attended 7 conferences on CCSVI, presented at 3, and spent close to 100 hours reviewing MRIs and watching the procedure. A study was recently done at UBC on this treatment. The lead neurologist, Dr. Trablusi, concluded that there was absolutely no difference, no smidgen of a difference, between the group treated with CCSVI and the group treated with placebos. In light of this study, and in light of the fact that you're now Science Minister, has your opinion on CCSVI changed?
Matt, I thank you for the question. In the last Parliament, I asked that the previous government do the science. I asked that they collect the evidence. I asked for clinical trials, and I asked for a registry for MS. And government reversed its position, agreed to do clinical trials, and it agreed to do the registry. As you say, the results have been put forth. But what I asked for was for the government to do the science.
So you now, it's your opinion that CCSVI has changed?
We are a government that is committed to science and evidence-based decision-making.
Well, I'm sure there's many scientists who've been waiting for a long time to hear that answer from you, Minister.
The scientific community, Matt, are absolutely thrilled with the record investment in research in Canadian history. $4 billion in research plus $2.8 billion for science infrastructure, the largest investment in discovery research of $1.7 billion, the largest investment in science, now sustainable funding for science infrastructure, $1.3 billion, and the largest investment in the NRC in 15 years, as well as the largest.
I have 45 seconds left, and then
in
I promise you'll be off
application
the hot
history.
seat for
I
a
think
minute.
the
So if I
research community is
could
very
just
thrilled.
get back to my last question, Minister. In your department's response to an order paper question submitted by my colleague, it was revealed that your department had awarded $51,000 and change to contract to BESC Ottawa for headhunting services related to the Chief Science Advisor position. How many candidates did the BESC submit for review, and which departments, offices, and individuals were involved in the selection process?
Matt, I'd have to come back to you with the details. What I can tell you, it was a rigorous process over about 6 months. We advertised the position widely. Numerous people were interviewed. We wanted to get the best candidate, and to, your colleague, the member from both, as he said, she is an excellent candidate, and her appointment has been lauded across the country.
Thank you very much. We're going to move right to Mr. Sheehan. You have 3 minutes.
Minister, thank you for your presentation. It's very great work you do, especially around the research chairs. I know even in little old Sault Ste. Marie that's reached out to apply for one for a plant lipid metabolism research project, and they're very confident in their application. And I just really am glad to see that it's reaching out to the smaller areas of Canada where great research is being done. What I'm really interested in too as well is in 2006 it took a legal settlement in 2006 to change the program to create hiring targets for 4 groups. Women, Indigenous, people with disabilities, visible minorities. And there wasn't much, I was reading an article in the fall, there wasn't much movement for a decade. But they talked about how you had implemented term limits and how it had been changing. So that was last year. But I want to ask about 2018, and congratulations on that. In 2018, what is in the budget to increase more equity in science and in research?
Thanks, Terry, for the question. I know this matters so much to you because of your daughter, and you've asked a lot about this. So very briefly, we've brought back the UCAS survey. We've put in place equity and diversity requirements for our Canada Excellence Research Chairs, our Canada Research Chairs, and we want to do more. And so we're going to put in place the well-known, well-respected Athena Swan program, and there was $15 million in the budget to put this in place, and we're looking forward to moving forward with that so that we have equity and diversity at our institutions.
Excellent. And you also had talked about how, and delving into, a lot more about how truth and reconciliation, that science research can be a part of that. And again, I go back to Loma University. It was a former residential school. I toured it recently. I saw the research. They're applying for research chairs, but they're also trying to involve the Indigenous components. Can you comment on what you see going forward and how that might happen?
You got 30 seconds. Sorry, got to keep it tight. Got to keep it tight. 30 seconds.
Terry, thank you for asking this. We're doing it in government science. We've been working, how do we bring Western science and ways of knowing? How do we include ways of knowing? And then in this budget, we received $3.8 million for the granting councils and to work with Indigenous peoples to develop a research strategy that will better support our Inuit, Métis, our First Nations. And we have tremendous researchers.
Thank you very much. Mr. Massey, take us home for the final 2 minutes, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Minister. Again, one of the things I'd like to talk about is one of the Canada catching up with the world with regards to medical testing and using animals. There's a growing body of evidence that 95% of those that have been used in terms of animal testing on drugs has not led to, successful rates. There's questions as to how efficiency the drug testing is, and whether or not Canada's scientific community should play a role in, I guess, pushing, non-animal testing. What do you feel about, having a center for alternatives to animal methods testing? Have you considered, and is there current any plans to looking at how we can really, be innovators and advance that issue, or is that something the government's not interested in right now?
Brian, thank you for the question. I'm well aware of the research you're mentioning from the University of Windsor. I think we've talked about this before. It's where I used to teach. And I think there have been other members of Parliament who've asked about this. The way things work, as you know, in research, is there's a peer review process. And Canada does have a world-renowned peer review process, and there would be different areas that the researchers could apply for. I'm pleased to tell you in this budget, we have a 25% increase to the granting councils, and it's going to really open up new areas. There's $275 million for a new multidisciplinary, multinational risky research fund. There's $210 million for Canada research chairs. So with this large investment, there's many more opportunities for our researchers. What we saw in the past, what we were hearing from the granting councils, is there was good research, but it couldn't get funded. There just simply wasn't the money. Now, because there is the money, that research will get funded. And I can't wait to see what our researchers do next. I think they're going to undertake research we can't even begin to imagine.
On that note, we are done. Thank you very much, Minister, for being here with us today. We are going to suspend for a very quick 2 minutes while we change the players around, and we'll come back. Thank you. everybody. We are going to continue for the second hour. We have the Honourable Navdeed Bains, Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development, as well as John Nubley, Deputy Minister. So we want to make sure that we get all the time we can. So, Minister, you have up to 10 minutes.
Well, thank you very much, Chair, and it's great to be back. It's great to see a lot of familiar faces, some new faces as well, and thank you very much for this opportunity. Je suis heureux de vous rencontrer.
I appreciate the opportunity to meet with you on the occasion of the tabling of the 2018-19 main estimates.
Details of the continued implementation of our government's Innovation and Skills Plan, which we've discussed in several of our budgets. My comments will be brief to allow maximum time for questions, Chair. So I know you said up to 10 minutes, but I will do my best to be less than that so we have a wholesome discussion. However, before I do that, I'd like to thank this committee once again for its report on intellectual property and technology transfer. As you saw last week, when I announced our government's first national IP strategy, which is a huge point of pride, it really did reflect the recommendations, and you guys are instrumental in driving those initiatives. So I want to thank you for your leadership. Je serai heureux de discuter de notre...
I would be pleased to discuss our strategy in more detail during the question and answer session.
Skills Plan. It is already providing a better life for middle-class Canadians from coast to coast to coast. And Mr. Chair, we are well on our way to accomplishing our goals. Our economy has been growing at a rate more than 3%, so GDP is doing really well relative to previous decades. Et notre économie connaît la plus forte.
And that is the fastest growing economy among the G7 nations.
We must continue to make investments. We need to be strategic, we need to be smart, we need to be thoughtful. From day one, jobs has been a priority for myself and for our government. Et depuis que nous sommes arrivés au...
Since we formed government in 2015, the Canadian economy has seen more than 600,000 jobs created. Our unemployment rate right now is at 5.8%, so clearly we're headed in the right direction.
Build on that momentum. That's why I'm here today to discuss the proposed budget allocation of $7.8 billion in the 2018-2019 time period across the ISED portfolio and to answer any questions you may have. In doing so, I am seeking approval for spending to continue advancing our government's Innovation and Skills Plan. Again, this is a multi-year plan, including the priorities announced in Budget 2017. Mr. Chair, one of the centerpieces of our Innovation and Skills Plan that received funding or that was allocated in the 2017 budget was the Supercluster Initiative. In February, we revealed the 5 successful proposals, which are linking together business, academia, non-for-profit society, to come together to supercharge our economy. Mr. Chair, the framework for partnership is there. Now it's up to innovators to bring those partners together and put their plans into action, and I look forward to seeing what each supercluster does in the coming months and years. Le Fonds stratégique pour l'innovation également.
Another tool to kickstart innovation announced in Budget 2017 is our Strategic Innovation Fund, or SIF.
Areas of economic strength, expand the role of Canadian firms in regional and global supply chains, and attract investments and create new, good quality middle-class jobs. Since its launch in 2017, Canada's innovative industries have responded positively to the Strategic Innovation Fund, for example. Hundreds of applications have been received through this new single window program. And we will put departmental resources to good use to allow SIF, the Strategic Innovation Fund, to accelerate technology transfer and commercializations in sectors ranging from aerospace, defense, and automotive to agri-food and clean tech. So really, again, to diversify our economy and to look at the areas of high growth. J'aimerais vous dire un mot à propos d'autres mesures importantes.
I'd like to highlight a couple of other important measures that are ensuring Canada's place in the digital economy.
Initiatives. Through CanCode, we're teaching coding and other digital skills, and this is really a point of pride for me as a father of 2 young girls. 1 million kids will learn how to code in the next 2 years from kindergarten to grade 12. And we will also help train more than 60,000 teachers on how to incorporate new technology in the classroom. Of course, none of this is possible without access to high-speed internet service. That's why we are funding Connect to Innovate, which helps bridge the digital divide in rural and remote communities across Canada. So this is a matter of fairness. This is a matter of equality. This is a really essential part in the new digital economy. Mr. Chair, Canada's success in the digital economy also depends on leveraging our diverse talent and providing opportunities for all to participate investing in digital skills and infrastructure. We believe will help achieve this. Finally, Mr. Chair, among the many 2017 measures I'm talking about here today, let me draw your attention to Innovative Solutions Canada program. Under this program, 20 federal departments and agencies will challenge small and medium-sized Canadian companies to solve real departmental problems. So these are challenges the government is facing. They're going to go out and put them out in a very open and transparent way. This program will support the scale-up and growth of Canada's innovators and entrepreneurs by having the federal government act as a first customer, to be that marquee customer. In return, the government will have access to the latest and most innovative products and services, and this is aimed squarely at innovators. And we are confident it will help smaller companies become successful global players as well. Monsieur le Président, les investissements de...
Mr. Chair, our government's investments under the Innovation and Skills Plan ensure that Canada will sustain its leadership position as one of the world's best places to live and to do business.
Class workforce and cutting-edge infrastructure, and they will attract investment and opportunities from around the world. So once again, I thank this esteemed committee for this opportunity to speak and share some of my thoughts, and I look forward to any questions you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. We're going to move right to Ms. Ng. You have 7 minutes, please.
Minister, it is so wonderful to have you here to talk to us about the investments being made in innovation and as part of the estimates process. So I want to talk about the Innovation Superclusters Initiative. And there's a particular one that's a bit close to me. That's the Advanced Manufacturing Supercluster, because that bid that was done out of the area that I represent included a lot of partners. It included the city. It included the city of Markham. It included the regional municipality of York. It included Venture Lab. It included York University, Seneca College, many industry partners such as Celestica, Magna, Canvas Analytics, Paytax, Sterile Care, Chip Care. And I'm really pleased that their bid was successful, and they will receive funding through the Advanced Manufacturing Supercluster. So it really does represent a wonderful economic opportunity because of the concentration of companies that are here, from startups to scale-ups to SMEs and multinationals. They choose, they work in they work and operate in a place that really is an ecosystem. So with that, could you talk to us about, I've just highlighted the one, but can you talk to us about the 5 superclusters, how they were chosen, and the government investment in the superclusters initiative?
Well, thank you very much for your question and your leadership in this area. I know Markham is really a hub of innovation. There's a lot of great companies there. Many of them are participating in this particular initiative, as you mentioned, in the Supercluster initiative, the advanced manufacturing one more specifically. Just to take a step back, what we decided as a government is we want to unlock more money for research and development. We want better quality jobs. We want to see more economic growth. And we decided, rather than being prescriptive, we create a open and transparent process led by businesses. And the idea was that they would put forward competitive bids and proposals and ideas of how they'd work with smaller companies and large companies, academic institutions, non-for-profit, to get us those desired outcomes. Because again, if someone says to me, what is a supercluster? It's a job magnet. It's really about good quality jobs. It's creating an ecosystem. And as you mentioned, this was a very competitive process, and ultimately we selected 5. We avoided what we call the peanut butter approach. We wanted to be very strategic, and we wanted to be very deliberate, and we wanted to have impact. So by selecting up to 5, and we determined 5 ultimately based on the criteria, we felt that this would allow them to really compete, not only within Canada, but globally as well. So we had the digital supercluster out of British Columbia. We had one out of the prairie provinces around protein and adding value to protein products. We obviously had the advanced manufacturing initiative that you talked about in Ontario, the artificial intelligence supply chain initiative, and then, of course, the ocean supercluster for the Atlantic Canada and those regions as well. So it represents the fact that innovation takes place across the country. But fundamentally, the key metrics and takeaways is that this, at minimum, would generate billions of dollars of economic activity, tens of thousands of jobs over the coming years. This has been validated by third-party experts. We also engaged government experts. We also had an expert panel. And so we're very confident that this is an economic policy that will give us those desired outcomes. And specifically in advanced manufacturing, it's about platforms. How can additive manufacturing, how can 3D printing, for example, and robotics help so many different aspects of our economy? So it's not focused on aero or auto exclusively. These platforms like artificial intelligence or digital platforms, for instance, have a profound impact across the entire economy. So I would say we have to be careful that this isn't a regional strategy. This is really platforms that are going to be deployed and benefit the entire Canadian economy from coast to coast to coast.
That's great. Can you talk to us about the
Sorry,
investment?
can I just jump in for one moment, please? Is there somebody playing music on this side? We're hearing music. Somebody, because we're hearing music. If there's somebody playing music, please stop playing music because it's interfering. And we've had a couple of complaints already. Thank you. You can go ahead.
Can you talk to us about the investment dollars in superclusters?
So it's a significant investment. It's $950 million. We wanted at minimum to get a dollar for dollar leverage out of the private sector. And I can tell you that the private sector stepped up in a big way. They exceeded that expectation of more than a dollar for dollar investment. So it's well over $2 billion, the investment, both from government, but more importantly, the private sector. As I mentioned earlier, the objective is to unlock cash on balance sheets for more research and development. If we want our companies to succeed and grow, they need to bet on the new emerging technology, new solutions. They need to think 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And we feel we've created not only that incentive, but that ecosystem as well. It's really about helping the small businesses scale up as well. This isn't a play about big businesses. This is really about that ecosystem that would benefit a lot of startups, companies that are scaling up. Because for us, that's really our focus. How can we help Canadian companies? And if you look at our innovation and skills plan, how can we help them scale and grow? Because our ambition is not only Canada. We have global ambition. We want these companies to succeed internationally as well. And so that's why we made such a significant investment of $950 million.
Thank you. I'm just going to switch a little bit to talk about Innovation Solutions Canada. So thank you for sharing with us the budget investments in Innovation Solutions Canada. Can you talk to us? And it's great because the government being the first customer for a lot of startups is something that will give these organizations, these startups, the leg that they need for a greater access into the marketplace, particularly if the government becomes their first customer. But can you talk to us about how Innovation or Innovative Solutions Canada might support underrepresented groups? Because we have a lot of startups that cover that waterfront. How's the government going to help there?
You got about 15 seconds.
So this is a program designed to help companies scale up. It's a government acting as a marquee customer, making a bet on emerging technology, Canadian technologies, and validating that technology so when they go abroad, particularly companies of diverse background, they can succeed again, not only in Canada, but globally as well. And hopefully in the next run, we'll get a chance to elaborate on that.
Thank you very much. We're going to move to Ms. Rempel. You have 7 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Minister, for the period covered by these estimates, what's the total amount of direct grants and contributions made to for-profit enterprises by all of the departments within your signing authority?
So based on the amounts that we have here in the 2018-2019 estimates, the total portfolio amount is $7.8 billion. And you're specifically looking for grants?
Made to for-profit enterprises, grants and contributions.
Companies that actually have a return, not non-for-profit, but
Right.
for-profit. Okay, so I'll get you that specifically. We have different grants within different portfolios. I'll get you that sum momentarily.
Okay, and of that number, how much went to female-led businesses?
Again, I will have to get you that number momentarily.
How much went to non-Canadian owned businesses?
Again, we'll have to get you that number. We'll definitely break that information out
so
for you. So
we're-
you're looking for international
Well,
investments
I'm
and
trying to
domestic
figure out how
investments?
much money you directly gave to companies.
Well, again, we'll get the exact amount, but we have different ways, primarily through grants and loans as repayable contributions. Those are the two mechanisms that we have.
Sure. So, I mean, some of the budgetary figures that we've seen, $372 million for Bombardier, $35 billion for the Infrastructure Bank. I just would like to know how much money, since we're at the main estimates,
Yeah. So the
you've
main
given
estimate,
to companies.
yeah. So there's two components. There's an operating component to the main estimates, which is like the baseline.
Yes,
the
I know.
personnel.
I
I'm just saying that.
realize.
Yeah. So there's a grants and contributions. So we're just
So
going
how
to get
much
those.
grants and contributions did you give to for-profit enterprises, including all of the sub-departments?
It's a great question. We'll get to that to you momentarily. I've just asked my officials to get that number for me.
So, Mr. Nubley, do you know what that amount is?
As we say, we'll get back to you with the exact number.
We're at the main estimates. I just want to know how much money you're giving to companies, because I was going to ask you how many jobs you've created from that money.
So again, just to
I'll give Mr. Nubley a moment.
sure.
Well, sure. I think of the voted activities, which is 2.3 billion in total, 80% are grants, as I understand it.
To for-profit enterprises?
Not all for-profit. We would have to verify that because
so how
it's
much-
not broken out in that detail.
How much money are you giving to companies?
I can't answer that question as we indicated. We'll have to come back to you
But
with that.
why? I mean, this
The-
is the
the way-
main estimates, right?
This is the main estimates, and the way it is broken out is as follows in terms of the way it is done, and it's done by program.
Right, but, okay, so the whole
If you want
argument,
the totals, then we will have to come back to you with the totals.
so the whole argument that has been made is that with the superclusters and this and that, is that if we give money to companies, that there will be jobs created. So what I'm trying to do is figure out, as a parliamentarian at the main estimates, how much money you've given to companies and how many jobs have been created. So can you tell me how much money you've given to companies?
So if I may, as I indicated, the total amount for the portfolio is $7.8 billion, of which we will siphon off and determine exactly the amount that you're requesting, and we'll make sure we provide you with a job number as well.
Okay, I'm just wondering why that's not possible today, given that you...
It was not possible today. We're just getting that information. So
Okay, so
we'll
Mr.
definitely
Chair,
get that to
will,
you.
by the end of my question round?
Well, however long
endeavor
it
to
takes
do ours
them.
as soon as
However long
possible.
it takes them.
Okay, I'm sort of surprised. It's the industry committee, and your department has a lot of grants and contributions that you've talked about, but how much, we don't know how much is going to companies at all, or?
We do know. We're just getting the accurate number for you.
Okay, Mr. Nubley, do you have that number?
No, I do not. And what the main estimate shows tends to be the actual changes in the funding related to the program in terms of budget 2017
how
and
can
budget
you-
2018.
How can you manage?
So in new funding stemming from budget 2017 totaling 568.5 million.
So I can't
The
get
innovation superclusters was increased to 149.3
Okay, so
million.
I don't have enough
The strategic
time.
innovation fund was increased to 99.3 million.
The question that I wanted to ask was, you're spending a lot of Canadian tax dollars on companies, so how many jobs were created? But I can't get to that. So I'll ask, because I know a lot of this has gone to companies like Bombardier, and your government has said that it is going to be entering into some sort of unknown financial agreement with Kinder Morgan for the pipeline. I'm wondering if you have allocated anything in these mains for whatever sort of corporate subsidy you plan to give to a pipeline which was prepared to be built with
I
no
think I
corporate
can say-
subsidy? Or do you not know that either?
No, there are issues in terms of disclosure. What we do provide to all Canadians on a regular basis is we publish investments made in companies and the total amount of investment. And we do this on an aggregate basis.
And how about Kinder Morgan?
No,
Is the Kinder
because
Morgan...
the issue is that there's confidentiality with respect to individual firms. And so all that we actually release.
So with respect to Kinder Morgan, as you know, we're right now looking at our financial and legislative options. So in the estimates, you will not find any allocation for that.
So we don't know how much money you've given to companies so far, and
No, we're just going to get you the accurate number.
okay. Do you have it yet?
We're going to get that to you momentarily.
Well, you're just sitting there.
Yes, so our officials is making sure we get you the correct number.
So what about, so we don't know how much money you've spent on companies.
No, we do have the number.
But-
We're
well,
just giving
then-
you that number.
But why can't I just have that right now?
No, you asked, and I appreciate your patience. I'd ask you to endeavor to be a bit more patient. We'll definitely get you that information. So
Okay.
I just want to clarify the record. We do have
Okay,
that
so
number,
but to
and we'll get you that number.
clarify, you as the minister in charge of signing off on this don't know how much money you've spent on
No,
companies.
I do know. You
Okay,
asked for
then
a
what is
specific
it?
number, and we'll get you that number momentarily.
What about you, Mr. Nubley? You're in charge of this as well. So how much?
Same answer. It hasn't changed in the last 3 seconds.
So I guess, trying to figure out how many jobs have been
We'll get
created
you
by
that
these
information
hundreds
as well.
of.
Absolutely. We'll get you the contributions and the jobs associated with that as well.
And so we don't know how much you're going
We
to be
do know,
spending
we're
on.
just getting that
What
information
about,
to-
and in Kinder Morgan, that's not in the budget at all right
No,
now?
as we mentioned, these are estimates, and they primarily reflect approved Treasury Board submissions since December of 2017. And so therefore, there's no provisions in this for Kinder Morgan.
Okay, so I'm at the end of my time, I think.
You are.
Do we have the answer to that?
We'll get you that momentarily.
But I'm out of time.
That's okay. There's
Come
an
back to
hour-long committee. We'll definitely get that to you soon.
Thank you very much. We're going to move to Mr. Massey. You have 7 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I think we'll move on to something more exciting in terms of gas pricing. And is there any money allocated for increase of either to the Competition Bureau, or is there support to actually fund a petroleum monitoring agency or an office of the oil and gas ombudsman? I've asked this question in the House of Commons before. The issue, I don't want to get into the debating over the pricing of gasoline and a series of things, but I'm looking for more consumer accountability and transparency. Is there anything for Canadians in the estimates for this to allow that?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no new monies allocated in these estimates.
Okay. I'm disappointed to hear that because I've been hoping that there at least be something of to nature of even augmenting the Competition Bureau. But I'll set that aside. I want to move to what we're hearing, I guess, concerns with regards to our hearings on copyright right now. It is a mess with regards to the Copyright Board of Canada in terms of the expression that we're hearing from interest parties on both sides. There have been some hearings and some submissions made. Is there, I guess, any allocated funds or improvements for making sure that Copyright Board of Canada decisions are moved quicker and are going to have decisions in a more timely manner?
So that's a great question, and copyright board reform is important to us. We want to make sure there's an efficient and transparent and predictable copyright board, and we are going to be bringing forward changes to reflect the issues that you've raised. We feel this is something that industry wants, and more importantly, if you look at, for example, the national IP strategy that we announced last week, there are some legislative changes to the notice and notice regime as well to make it more easier for consumers. You well know, I think you mentioned as well, the 85-year-old lady that received a notice to pay up to $5,000 fine. We think that's unacceptable. And so we're going to be bringing some of those changes as well. So there'll be some changes to the board reform as well to make it more transparent and to deal with the issues in a more timely manner. And some legislative changes will be proposed as well to deal with issues like notice and notice.
I do want to just quickly follow up with that. One of my concerns that I've expressed during we're just doing a review of the copyright right now, is even if we present whatever report, is if there's time for a quick turnaround and also changes, there's no doubt that the Copyright Board's time frame of decision making seems to be perhaps impeded by perhaps resources. So I just wanted to note that. Now that we have Ms. Jubilee back, you might be part of this answer in that, because it does follow up with regards to the new window that you have, and I've expressed concerns in the past about the Strategic Innovation Fund, not because of the fund itself, but because we had an independent auto fund, and now we have one. It was different for aerospace, and we had, but now it's the one-shop window. Can you provide any numbers in terms of kind of percentages or of where the funding's going? My concern has always been, a lack of, I guess, siphoning, or perhaps it could from the auto sector. What can you report at this point?
So the overall fund amount is $1.26 billion, and this is really a reflection of the SADE fund that you refer to as for the aerospace sector, the automotive innovation fund that existed. They've been consolidated. We added new resources as well. We've just started to announce some programming and projects under the SIF that go beyond aero and auto. I would say that auto's in a strong position. One of the key announcements we made was Linamar, for example. That was the first announcement that we made that contributed to 1,500 jobs for that announcement. And so I would say it's still early to say because it's a competitive process. We're looking at a range of different proposals that are coming forward. But the automotive sector has done well historically, and we're confident that it'll do well going forward because we're looking for significant capital investments as well. And it's still early stages. As you know, this was just announced, and we've just kind of rolled out a few projects. There's many more to come.
Will there be, I guess, a publishing we can pick them apart them individually, but will there be a compartmentalization of the types of industries that will be accessing this fund, or is it just going to be a long list?
We can prepare it in a manner that I think would be helpful to you and others if you want it broken out by sectors. But ultimately, we're going to list the different projects. Some of those projects, it's interesting. It's not necessarily auto, but auto and aero working together. It's sometimes based on R&D that help multiple platforms that deal with multiple sectors. So we can do our best to categorize them. But I think if you're thinking of the car of the future, as I am, which is a huge concern of ours and a preoccupation because we want to see the long-term success of the automotive industry. So we're looking at the role of AI, clean tech, autonomous vehicles, and making sure that we make those strategic investments. And we're very mindful of that in the Strategic Innovation Fund to set ourselves up for success, not only in mandates right now, but also getting mandates 10, 15 years from now.
Quickly to move on to another issue that the rural broadband, we've just issued a report as a committee about that. Is there any comment you wish to provide right now? We're receiving, obviously, a lot of attention about this from not only just constituents, but also companies in the field. Do you want to use this opportunity of 1 minute to comment about the fact that we've submitted the report right now?
Yeah, no, first of all, thank you. As I mentioned on the intellectual property report, your feedback and guidance was extremely helpful as we articulated the government's first national IP strategy, and a new knowledge economy was long overdue. But with respects to, investments in internet high-speed connectivity in rural remote communities, that's still a priority for our government. That's why we introduced, and it's in the estimates as well, the Connect to Innovate program. This is a $500 million program to provide that fiber backbone infrastructure. And the neat attribute about this program is it actually leverages private sector funding. So overall investment will be over $1 billion, will help over 700 communities, really remote and rural communities as well. But we're looking to build upon that. We invested, for example, or announced LEOs, low Earth orbit satellite technologies that can help, again, those rural remote communities to deal with the latency issue. And so we're looking at technology, we're looking at traditional funding in fiber, we're looking at partnerships with the private sector. We can also work very closely with the provinces and territories to make sure we have better program alignment to maximize those opportunities as well. So it continues to be an important issue that our caucus raises, and we'll continue to make those investments.
Thank you.
When we respond to the report, though?
In a timely manner. We'll look at it, review it, and get back to you in a timely manner.
Thank you. We're going to move on to Mr. Jahari. You have 7 minutes. Just to
Mr.
remind
Chair.
everybody, we're very tight on time, so let's keep it tight.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be sharing my time with Mr. Sheehan. Welcome, Minister. Wanted to go back on the discussion that Mr. Massey started around the Strategic Innovation Fund. You, in your opening remarks, you made a comment around since its launch in 2017, Canada's innovation industries have responded positively to the Strategic Innovation Fund. Can you share some experience around you highlighted one or two of the areas where the funding has been announced. Can you also touch on the benefit that it's brought into the innovation agenda that the government has?
Which particular program were you alluding to?
Strategic Innovation Fund.
So this fund is really designed with multiple objectives, but the two I want to highlight is, first of all, we really want to bet on early stage R&D. You know, one of the challenges for us in Canada we see is that our businesses are 22 out of 34 OECD countries when it comes to investments in R&D. We can and must do better. There's a sense of complacency. There's also just challenges in the environment here where there's a risk averseness that exists. So we're trying to unlock the record cash that's on balance sheets right now, and we're trying to see how can we invest in R&D. So one of the key objectives of the Strategic Innovation Fund is to develop that partnership not only with the private sector, but with academia and small businesses as well, to unlock some of that money. The other aspect of this is to look at some key emerging technologies. So, for example, we just did an Encore announcement. This is really about 5G, creating a 5G bed, this platform where small businesses can come and test out their ideas, their solutions, their technologies. The larger companies have put money into it, but so has the province of Ontario, the federal government, and Quebec. And this is, again, an area where emerging technologies can really flourish. So we're really focusing on unlocking new monies, but also investing in key strategic areas where there's high growth, especially with 5G, with the Internet of Things. There's enormous opportunities there. It plays a big role in autonomous vehicles as well. So the connected vehicle is a key component of that. So we're being, hence the name, Strategic Innovation Fund. We're being very strategic, but again, we're not prescribing what these partnerships should look like. It's really the onus is on businesses. These are business-led initiatives, working very closely with academia and smaller businesses in particular to come forward with ideas to invest in more R&D money and also in emerging technologies as well.
Last question on that topic. There was a narrowing down of the amount of fund from 15 to 10 billion, and I'm sure that's focused on and benefiting a lot of businesses. Can you highlight one or two of those benefits as a result of this narrowing down?
Narrowing down of?
The funds limitation from 15 million down to 10 million?
So, I mean, the benefit is ultimately we want to see more activity, we want to see more competition, we want to see more businesses participate. As you know, historically, these funds have been allocated for two key sectors, and they're important sectors. The aerospace sector is absolutely essential, and so is the auto sector. And they'll continue to, in my opinion, participate in an active way in this fund as well. But we've opened it up to different sectors as well. And we believe the criteria that we have in place really allows us to touch upon key growth areas. For example, I was in Vancouver just a few weeks ago on Stem Cell Technologies, a Canadian company. As you know, in the 60s, we discovered stem cells. And it's a Canadian know-how, Canadian research, but now we're commercializing it. And the jobs that are being created, so our investment of $22.5 million will generate 800 new jobs, right? And so we're excited about those strategic investments. And again, that's above and beyond the traditional aero and auto, which are important, in an area where there's high growth. And these are good quality jobs, especially because these companies deploy strong IP strategy. So they, on average, pay 16% wage premium. And so those are the kind of middle-class jobs we talk about, and those are the kind of investments we want to see more of.
Great. Thank you, Minister. Mr. Scheer.
Thank you very much, Minister. In your presentation, you talked about the Innovation Super Cluster Initiative, and we all know that it was oversubscribed. And what tended to happen, at least in places like Sault Ste. Marie and other places when I'm talking with other MPs, is that you had businesses that were talking again that hadn't talked in a long time or had never talked before, and including in partners with colleges and universities. So my question to you, Minister, is we're down to 5. What about all the other ideas that are out there? Will regional economic development agencies be able to play a part in partnering in with some of those ideas? And how is the funding for the regional economic development agencies in the 2018 budget, if you could describe that?
So regional economic development agencies are really critical to our government's overall agenda, especially the economic agenda, because we want the benefits for the many, not just the few. This is not simply about urban Canada. We want to see rural and remote Canada succeed as well. And so that's why we brought the portfolios together. That's why we've elevated their importance. That's why we've had successive budgets of increasing funding for a lot of these regional development agencies. In these estimates, you'll see it reflects the budget commitment as well going forward of previous 2017 increases. But as you saw in the last budget as well, we increased the funding for regional development agencies by $511 million. And the idea is to give them more resources to better coordinate with these initiatives. So if it's Super Cluster Initiative, it's the Strategic Innovation Fund, if it's Innovation Solutions Canada, the programs that I just briefly highlighted. The idea is that we want to break down those silos, and that's why everything's come together in one department to have better coordination, better alignment, and better opportunities. And again, to go above and beyond the traditional urban centers to really make sure that Canadians benefit, because 20% of our population is outside of urban Canada, and we want to make sure they succeed in this new digital economy, that they succeed going forward. And so we're very confident that the additional funding for the regional development agencies will provide them with the resources to better coordinate with some of these initiatives that I highlighted.
Thank you, and that's it.
That's it.
Okay, I just got
That's all. That's all. Thank you very much. We're going to move to Ms. Rempel. You have 5 minutes, please.
Great. So do we have the numbers?
So the number you were asking for was of the total $7.8 billion, how much goes to grants and contributions?
Actually, my question
grants
was,
and contributions.
No, of the for the period covered by these estimates,
Yep.
what was the total amount of direct contributions made to for-profit enterprises by all of the departments within your signing authority? So not the 7.8, the entire portfolio.
Yeah, so that all
Okay.
those make up the entire portfolio.
Okay.
So that's just want to clear that we have
Okay.
the same premise. Of that, $5.5 billion is attributed to direct grants and contributions for all the portfolios combined.
To for-profit enterprises.
Correct.
So $5.5 billion to for-profit enterprises.
Correct.
And how many jobs, full-time private sector jobs, were created?
Pardon?
Out of how many full-time private sector jobs were created in that time period for that expenditure?
So we're getting the specific breakup, but overall, I would say definitely tens of thousands of jobs have been created. I
In
just
what
highlighted an
industry-
example
in
for
what
Linamar, for
industries?
example. Oh, in all industries,
But,
because
well, call me skeptical. Like, do you have an exact number of jobs? I mean,
no, we're working on that to get you the specific number. But
But,
I
I
can
mean-
tell you right now, the $5.5 billion has led to tens of thousands of jobs that have been
but
created.
where?
And across the economy.
But where?
Where do you want me to look?
Give me
Pardon?
what industry? Like,
G-
where were
name,
those?
me an, name me an industry.
So how many jobs were created, let's say, in Alberta with the $5.5 billion?
So that's not an industry, that's
Okay.
a region. That's
Yeah,
a-
but you asked me where.
So since the last election, since 2015, over 600,000 jobs have been created in the Canadian economy. The vast majority are full-time jobs.
Yeah, but I
in
asked-
Alberta, if I may please complete my sentence, in Alberta, more than 50,000
I
jobs
don't
have been
think
created.
I don't think
You
you're.
asked for Alberta, so
But I
I'm
asked
giving
from the you spent $5.5 billion and you gave that to companies. I'm asking you, of that money, how many jobs were created from that money that you can say, I spent that money, here's a job.
Like I said, if you want to look at an overall record, since we formed government, over 600,000 jobs have been created.
No,
the vast majority are full-time.
So the
But like to-
economy creates jobs, right?
Correct.
So I'm asking.
That's a great point you raised. So, let me highlight that point to you.
No,
So
I
when we
want an
make these
answer to my
investments,
question.
It's
You-
not directly related to this. It's also
oh, wait,
leveraging
so-
private sector support
So,
as well.
so you said that the growth in the economy is not directly related to the
no,
5
this is partially. We create the
But
conditions.
how much? Like where? Like you said, tens of thousands. and-
50,000 jobs in Alberta.
but directly related to the $5.5 billion.
Partly related to this, yes.
So
there's
how
not
much
one direct
partly?
correlation. As you know, when a job is created, there's many factors that come into play, right?
I think
Companies
for-
make
for
investment
$5.5
opportunities
billion,
where they
we
want to
should
invest,
be able to
different
say-
levels of government, if they're looking at the
How about
tax-
this? Let's try this. For $372 million to Bombardier, how many jobs were created out of that?
My understanding was 3,000.
And those were full-time, and they
Good
were
paying jobs.
directly related to
That
the
on average pay
370.
60% more
They
than
were
the average
directly
industry
related to the $372
Absolutely,
million.
that's exactly right, yes.
Okay, so then for the rest
that's
of
the aerospace sector.
for the rest of the 5.5 billion, let's say go back again. How many were created in Alberta
Again, as I mentioned to you, 50,000.
out of the 5.5?
Yeah, so we're getting those numbers for you. You know that. So, but you wanted overall job numbers? Over
but-
50,000
I mean,
jobs
we're
have been
looking
created in
at main
Alberta since we formed
estimates.
government.
So main estimates, $5.5 billion to private companies. You won't
I
tell
think-
me
no,
how
I'm
much.
I'm not saying I won't tell you. You're asking for, based on geography, a number, and we'll get you that number. It's not saying we don't want to share that number, but you're asking a slice a different way based on the investments we make, how does it impact a certain region?
Okay,
We'll definitely get you that number,
so-
just as
so-
we got you this grants and contributions number.
Okay, so for the
We're very open and very
superclusters,
transparent.
for the superclusters, how many jobs have been created in Alberta for the supercluster?
So we're just finalizing the contribution agreement, so it's tough to say exactly today how many jobs have been created because we haven't finalized the contribution agreement, but based on the business plan, I can tell you right now over 50,000 jobs will be created
Where?
across the country.
Where?
Across the country. These are platforms. So, for example, artificial intelligence, it impacts retail, oil and gas,
Well,
farming,
I mean,
agriculture.
Looking
it
at my
impacts
province,
aerospace, auto.
you sign off for, you know,
I'm
lot
just
of
saying, so
different-
those jobs are created on the entire
but
economy.
you
now.
couldn't tell people in Alberta how many jobs would be created.
50,000 jobs have been created since we formed government in Alberta.
For $5.5 billion, that's like
That's
directly
part,
related
that's part
to that?
of our strategy. This is grants and contributions aren't the only thing we do as a government to support the economy.
Okay, how about,
For example,
let's do
BDC,
subtractive.
when,
How many,
when
how
Alberta
many
went through a
jobs,
difficult
how many
time,
of those 50,000 jobs were created by people who didn't get any money from you?
what do you mean didn't get any money from
Well, so if a company created a job, I'm assuming it would be included in that figure. So why
Our
don't
job
we,
is to create the conditions for success for business. Sometimes there's a direct correlation, sometimes there's an indirect correlation. But our policies in general have created an environment where we have record GDP growth and record job creation and historic low unemployment rate of 5.8%.
I'll ask a different way.
Hate to cut you guys off, but we are out of time. We're going to move to Mr. Graham. You have 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Minister. I think on the same line, we've actually seen us go in my area from a shortage of jobs to a shortage of workers. So something is working. So I appreciate that. So I want to thank you also for the tremendous work you've been doing in helping us get rural Canada off of our heavy reliance on smoke signals and carrier pigeons for internet. What you might know as dial-up and satellite. But so we've spent years what I call innovating to connect. And so my own home relies on a low reliability, low speed relayed wireless system. It goes one lake to the next lake to the next lake to a house that connects to a cable system that eventually, sometimes we have internet. It's pretty awesome. So I want to thank you for the comments you made to Mr. Maskin regarding Connect Innovate. For me, it's a very visionary program, but I'm wondering if you have more comments after what you said to him on Connect Innovate before I dive into some of the related topics.
Well, the vision is very clear. We want to bridge that digital divide. We think investments in high-speed internet in rural and remote communities is almost a matter of life and death in some cases. It's absolutely essential for businesses that want to go online and grow. It's essential for those that want to get a world-class education. It's essential for some communities when it comes to healthcare. So there's so many important aspects to bridging that digital divide, and that's why we were very proud of introducing this program. But this is a meaningful first step. We want to continue to do more, and look forward to your thoughts and ideas on that.
Well, I have tons. You mentioned the digital divide, and I think that's a really important point. And one aspect we talk about a whole lot less is the cell phone service. It's in rural Canada, it's as dire, at least in my writing, rural cell phone service is as dire as internet service. So I'm wondering if you're looking for creative new solutions to solve this rather less discussed aspect of the digital divide.
Yeah, no, I think, one of the advantages of Connect to Innovate, for example, is it provides that fiber backbone infrastructure, which is helpful for cell phone towers. And so we think that the issue that you raise right there is connected to that program as well. We believe in many cases that fiber backbone infrastructure will allow for those cell towers to be established, which will deal with that issue as well. So, but we recognize there's other mechanisms in place, other solutions that exist as well. And we're very open to that. And I know that you played a leadership role in discussing those in caucus and in committee as well. And just like intellectual property, just like the study on broadband, just like the study did on manufacturing, we really value the work that's done in this committee, and it really helps shape a lot of our programs and policies.
I appreciate that. Now, there's a worldwide shortage of programmers, and it's as bad as the worldwide shortage of pilots. So when we say we're connecting to innovate, for me, solving the coders issue is a big part of the innovation part of that equation. So it's then inextricably tied to the visionary CanCode program. Can you bring us up to date in more detail on CanCode, where we're at, how it improves inclusiveness, how it's going to get a new generation to understand technology, and how the money is being spent, and how your own coding lessons are going?
So I'm still a bit challenged with my coding. These young kids can outmaneuver me all the time. I was in Mississauga last week announcing a specific program, Code Mobile, for this initiative where a fleet is purchased to allow different vehicles to help kids code in places across the country. Overall, the program objective is very simple. 1 million kids will learn how to code. This is a $50 million program. 60,000 teachers will also get the tools to help students better learn coding. And this is not simply about coding. It's about digital literacy. It's about digital skills. It's about making sure that people, young people, have the tools they need to succeed in the new digital economy. And this investment is also strengthening our domestic pipeline. Many of the jobs that will be created will be related to coding in STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. But we have specific targets around more girls learning how to code. Because in the past, for example, 38% of graduates from STEM programs are women. But if you look at STEM-related jobs, it's only 21%. So we can and must do a better job of not only attracting more women into the STEM-related fields, but make sure that they actually stay in those fields, because those are better-paying jobs. There's high growth opportunities in those areas as well. So that's why coding is designed to also focus on Indigenous populations that in the past might not necessarily have those opportunities, girls. So we're very thoughtful, being more inclusive in some of our programming.
Thank you for your leadership on this. No, I'm out of time for this.
Thank you very much. We're going to move to Mr. Lloyd. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Baines and Mr. Nubley, for coming in. And just want to state for the record that we have your agreement that you will be tabling the information on how much of the funding from the $5.5 billion will be going towards Alberta companies and how many direct jobs that would create. Now, going into my question, Minister Baines, you're in charge of the proposed takeover of Aecon by Chinese state-owned China Communications and Construction Company, which, in my opinion, represents a threat to the viability of small and medium-sized enterprises. For example, they recently bid on a Samson Cree water plant and left about $1 million in the table underbidding Canadian companies. And this poses a real threat to the construction sector. Have you, as a minister, undertaken to assess the impact of Aecon's takeover by Chinese state-owned enterprise on small and medium-sized enterprises in Canada?
So as you know, I'm the minister responsible for the Investment Canada Act. Under that, I have a responsibility to look and do a thorough net economic benefit analysis, and the issues you raised, for example, would be under my preview, and those are the things we would analyze. There's 2 dimensions to this. There's the economic benefit and the test and the analysis that needs to be done. And as you know, all such transactions are subject to a national security review. This is a multi-step process that exists. And I work very closely with Minister Goodale and our security intelligence agencies.
On the economic impact aspect, what did you find? What were the results of that impact?
So as you know, right now we're still going through the process of doing our due diligence. It is a rigorous and robust process. We haven't made any final determination at this moment.
We've known this for months that this takeover is happening, but do you have any idea what the
Well, I
impact
have lots
will
of
be?
ideas and I have lots of information, but I'm not at this moment in a position to share it until we don't complete our due diligence. So I don't want to speculate on anything until we make a final determination, but I can assure you now Canada's national economic interest will always guide our decision making, always has in the past, and will continue to do so going forward.
So former CSIS Director Ward Elcock has stated recently that the proposed takeover of Aecon is a threat to our national security. And furthermore, this takeover would limit opportunities to cooperate with our largest trading partner, the United States. We've seen that with the Gordie Howe Bridge project that's coming up. Do you believe that this takeover is in Canada's best interests?
We're going through that analysis right now. I respect experts and their opinions, but I have a great deal of confidence in the current experts we have, the current head of CSIS, the current head of the RCMP, and other security agencies, and I value their advice and feedback. I've always listened to their advice and feedback, and I've followed their advice. As I've stated in the House of Commons, and I'll state here unequivocally, we never have and never will compromise on national security, and we'll make sure we do our proper due diligence before we render any decision and go public with it.
Well, in terms of, it's an interesting statement, Minister, because we have the recent case of the Norstat satellite company, which was sold without a national security review. So how can you say that we take national security seriously when a satellite company wasn't even subject to a national security review?
No,
Very quickly, please.
Every review is subject to a national security multi-step process. That process is always followed. And as I said, I've always followed the advice of our national security officials.
Thank you very much. We're going to move to Mr. Bayless. You have a very quick 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Minister Baines, for being here. The innovation economy that you've been working so heavily on is ultimately based on intellectual property. So I was really very happy to see the announcements that were made last week on our innovation strategy related specifically to intellectual property. And I noted that a lot of the points that you brought up stemmed out of the report from this committee. So I want to thank you for that. I think the experts that testified appreciated that. Can you talk to us about the IP marketplace? This is one of the cornerstones of what you announced. Can you explain that a bit more?
So you're right. This is the first national IP strategy that the federal government has deployed. So in a new knowledge economy, it was long overdue, and I want to thank you again for your work. As you know, there's $85.3 million associated with this strategy as well, so it has substantial resources deployed. There's three components to it. One, of course, is around IP literacy, which is really important, particularly small businesses in IP. Only 9% actually have an IP strategy, only 10% actually own IP. So this is a real challenge for us. Even if you look in the context of the U.S., the U.S. S&P 500, 84% of their assets are attributed to IP, while the TSX top 30, only 40%. So we're really behind the IP game relative to, say, for example, our U.S. peers. And so we brought different provisions. We looked at, trolls and bad behavior. We brought patent collective forward as well to deal with issues, to provide better resources, to deal with, again, those bad actors. But the IP marketplace is a great initiative that this committee highlighted, which really is a one-stop shop for businesses to go to be able to determine the different patents that exist in a more clear and concise way, and to see how they can better leverage it in their own business. And also those IP holders or those patent holders are in a position to then get better licensing revenue and fees out of their IPs as well, so are their patents as well.
Facilitate.
That's exactly it. So that's the whole idea, is to be that one-stop shop, this marketplace for patent holders that really allows businesses and academia and IP holders, patent holders, to work together.
Another point that was really brought up through our consultations was this need to really help our small and medium-sized businesses become more IP literate, to really bring them up a bit. And so I saw there's a great initiatives on that front. Can you elaborate on what you're doing specifically to help the small and medium businesses be more literate, stronger IP?
So the Canadian Intellectual Property Organization is CIPO is going to provide additional resources for training. We're going to have IP legal clinics. So we're very mindful of that. We recognize that, small businesses in particular, they need to have a strategy when it comes to IP. They don't fully appreciate it, and what happens is these trolls or bad actors come and can undermine their business by extorting money for the IP that they didn't patent, for example.
I'm going to have to cut you guys off, sorry.
But bottom line is there's a comprehensive program to promote literacy and tools for businesses to create a strong business strategy for IP.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much. We notice the bells are going off. I would like unanimous consent so that Mr. Massey gets his final 2 minutes. We're good?
There we go.
All right, thank you. Mr. Massey, take it home for the final 2 minutes.
Thank you. And with that, I of course have to ask about my local community, but it is a national issue, and that's the Gordie Howe Bridge. And it was raised with regards to Aecon Construction, the Investment Canada Act. We have SNC-Lavalin, which is under criminal investigation, is a second of the two of three bidders, and then there's a third one. Is there any concern, yeah, no, it's okay. I understand. Is there any concern, or is there a backup plan with regards to we're going to the June selection of the preferred candidate of those three groups? One's involved in an Investment Canada review, second one's under criminal investigation, and the third one we don't know of anything yet of problem-wise. But is there a backup plan with regards to this process?
So my understanding is the process is well underway. We've been very clear about our support for the bridge. I'm not aware of a plan B, C, or E right now. I know that they're going through a competitive bidding process. When it comes to Aecon, for example, we're going to do our proper due diligence in terms of the acquisition that's being discussed in the Investment Canada Act. But we are very supportive, as you know, of the Gordie Howe Bridge Initiative, and right now they're going through the bidding process.
And lastly, there was an order in council that was provided to the Ambassador Bridge. Matty Maroon, a private American billionaire. My question is why it is destroying my Sandwich Town community adjacent to it, and there was no community benefits that were provided. This is a serious situation, and why were there no community benefits provided in that order in council?
So I can get back to you on that, and I appreciate you raising that issue. That is not the objective. We want to make sure that we get the Gordie Howe Bridge built. We recognize the challenges right now with the Ambassador Bridge as well, and hence why we support the Gordie Howe Bridge. But specifically to this order in council, we can get back to you on that and determine, what we can do in terms of next steps.
It's fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, for being here. Just remind everybody, Thursday, the first hour, we're in camera discussing travel, and the second hour with Minister Chagger. Thank you, everybody. We are adjourned for the day.